I'll give you. That's a really good question. So he's asking, genetics. What percentage is genetics playing in this thing? What percentage is the training process playing in this thing? One, if you read Genius in All of Us is the best book, I think, about that. In Matt Schenk, I was going to say it's Max Schenk, who was just going to say, I can't think of Schenk's first name right now, but in Genius in All of Us, he says that it's genetics times environment. So that's a really important thing to understand, because you're going to have, now, Alex's dad was the first round pick in the National Hockey League. She's got good genetics on her side. He was first overall, like in the 80-something or 90, right? She's got really good genes. But now you look at my daughter, not really good genes. Probably if she got any, she got them on her mother's side. You know what I mean? I'm incredibly average in every way. And her mother never played sports as a kid. Working class family, everybody had a job when they were 14. So we don't know what kind of athlete her mother might have been. But there's no athletic background there. But in my case, so let's just say, if we look at this, so if we say, for instance, and I like this example, we take, let's just say Carl Crawford grew up in Houston, right? Inner city guy. Genetic, 10. If he was in a 1 environment, 10 times 1 equals 10. Let's just say my daughter was a 5. But she's grown up in a 10 environment, she might potentially be a 50. And what Schenk says, this is the important thing, is that he believes that environment is the multiplier, not genetics. And so that's why it's so important. So I don't know, as you said, I'm not sure what we can or cannot do, but I know that environment is going to be the multiplier. Because we can't really do anything about genetics, especially in this country. We get what we get. And the kids that show up are the kids that show up, and you don't have any control over that. In some, at least some of the sort of emerging communist countries, there might be differences in terms of selection of people, but we get basically, parents decide, hey, I want my kid to play, whatever, hockey, basketball, baseball, then that's what you get at baseball practice. Then what we've got to do is create, and this is what I think we've done for our Olympic girls, we've created the best environment that we possibly could for them to train in so that we can maximize. The good thing, we know we're on the up end of the genetic pool. We've got the best genetic specimens. And then I think sometimes when you squish a lot of the best genetic specimens in, you also drive the environment. Because when you get all those people training together, suddenly there's other stuff that kicks in. But I don't think, it's funny because there's been a whole series of books, Talent Code, Talent is Overrated, Genius in All of Us. What was the other one? Sports Gene. Sports Gene goes the other way, and Sports Gene says that it's going to be primarily genetically driven. But, again, you've got to look at the activity and realize that, that may fall short if kids don't have opportunities. There may be kids in inner cities in poor developing countries, basketball players in the Sahara, places like that. If they don't get out of the Sahara, they're not going to become really good basketball players because they're not going to be in the environment, even though they're genetics, so they might be 7'6", but 7'6" with with no baskets and no basketball, that's not a great environment to get better at basketball. But we've seen those guys come over to the United States, even at relatively advanced ages. When you look at like a Manute Boyle, which some people may not remember, again, I'm dating myself, but the Sudanese swatter, he was 7'6", and he came over to University of Bridgeport, where my sister worked at the time, and went on to play in the NBA for quite a while, with a relatively short window. So I think there's a lot, again, depending on where you are in the genetic pool, maybe environment becomes that much less important, but it's still going to be the multiplier. And so this, you already saw Megan, so I'm going to skip that, but that was 160. This is just some of our BU guys saying,